Well, we'll do a feeding video here. I've got both mixer wagons loaded with haylage, and I've got everything loaded already out of the commodity shed, so I'm going to start both mixers mixing. In other words, I'm going to get the PTOs going, and then we've got to dump on corn silage, and then we can go ahead and feed both of these off. So let's go ahead and get started here. So we have the fresh cow load here. We have to go into 3 different barns with this load. We've got one small group in this barn. This is barn 5. And then we have just a few cows to feed in the back of the parlor. Cows that have just freshened, they're in a pen pack. And then we'll go over into barn 8, the barn that we ended up putting the addition on, and we have a group over in that barn as well. Now you might be asking, why not just have them all in one barn? Well, it just happens to do with the size groups that we have and the size or the amount of cows that we have in these, the amount of fresh cows that we have. The math just works out to have them in these particular groups, and it's easier to come to this group here to check them because it's not that far away from the parlor, kind of first off right next to the crossover, and then the same with the fresh cows that are in barn 8. It's just a convenience factor, and a group size of group deal. So we pull in to this barn, feed this middle group. We've got them fed. Now we'll back out of here and go in the back side of the parlor. The parlor has a drive-in feed alley, or we can obviously drive into the feed alley to feed them, but it's not a drive-through barn, so we have to back out of that one anyways. It's just easier to come into the back side of this barn than it is to come around the front and come in from that way, because that hill's a little bit of a booger to get up to get into the barn. So it's a little cold out here this morning, but it's not bad. Makes for a nice feeding atmosphere, if you will. We have door openers, automatic door openers on all of the feed alley doors, and for the most part, they work pretty good. We've got just a little bit of feed to dump off here in this barn. We've got a little bit on each side, and then we're going to be coming up into the back side of the parlor. This group to my right side, they've just moved that into the parlor, and I've got a young man that has moved the group, and he's actually opened the gate for me. So I've got 12 or 15 headlocks to dump feed in front of right here. And then we have some cows in this one box stall that's in behind the parlor that we dump some feed off to. So we're coming into the back side of the parlor. 6 headlocks that I can put feed in front of here. We pull up to the crowd gate post, get as close to it as we can, and we back out. Got a little bit of feed left to put on my left side. So I've got a little bit that I can dribble down through on this left side here. About 12,000 pounds left to feed the group over in barn 8. So I'm not sure if I can get in to barn 8 from this east side. I might have to go all the way around, but the group of cows that I have to feed is on the west end of that barn 8. So we might have an extra step here to get feed into that group. They had just got done milking the last group in barn 8, and they've come into this barn here, and I'm not sure, sometimes I can't get down through barn 8 here because they have cows coming from the far side of the barn and they're crossing over the feed alley. So we'll have to take a peek into this end of the barn to see if we can get down through. Open this door here. We'll take a peek in. I think I can get across. No, I can't get across yet. We'll just have to go around. That's all. Okay, so we're just getting around to the west end of barn 8, and the group I have is right just inside the door here on our right hand side, and the group that they were bringing across the feed alley down in front of us here, they have just got the crossover clean, and that is now open. So our next load will be feeding in 2 barns. We've got to feed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 different groups, but it's only 2 different barns. We'll just put a trickle down to all of them just so we can get some feed in front of them, and then the next batch of loads that I do, I'll come back in with another load and feed right on top of just the cows to our left on the white mixer, and then we have to go into 3 barns again with this mixer here, with the next batch of loads that we mix up here. So the mixer wagon's just about empty. I gotta let it clean out. I got about 2,000 pounds left on. We'll let it clean out, and then we'll go over and we'll grab the other mixer wagon. So we're getting ready to feed off the first group here with this white mixer wagon. I've got a group to my right, and that's going to go down to where we started with the first little bit of fresh cow feed that we dumped off the mixer wagon, the last mixer wagon load. So I've got 31,000 pounds on this load, and I've got to stretch it. So we're just trickling feed off of this mixer wagon because I've got a lot of cows to get a little bit of feed in front of on this load here. The next loads that I mix up will go to the fresh heifers, which is in this group to our left. We've got the west end of barn 5 here. We've got to feed both sides. So we'll feed, get my door up, we'll feed a little bit to our right, starting from the crossover here, right down to the end of the barn, the doorway. So we've reached the end here. We'll back up. Oh, if I didn't pull out the door too far, I slid a little bit. Sometimes it gets icy and we can't get back in. So I know some of you will say, well, gee, we can dump off both sides of our mixer wagon. Well, our feed alley is a little too wide to be able to gravity out both sides of the mixer wagon to feed two groups at the same time. So we've always had the conveyor on the mixer wagon, which the conveyor is the weakest point. We have any trouble that we have with the mixer wagon is usually related to the conveyor. But to be honest with you, and I know I'll get some critics that'll argue with me, you can actually feed off faster. Well, we're jiggling around here quite a bit. You can actually feed off quite a bit faster with the conveyor than you can going gravity out down a slide chute. And the reason why is because the conveyor is taking feed away from that door opening on the mixer wagon. So the mixer wagons that have the gravity slide chute, the mixer has to push the feed out that opening, and it's a slower, emptying it out. So I don't know how much stability I'm going to get out of this footage on this camera here, but I don't have you guys stuck in a spot. It's too awful good, and I'm having trouble getting up this hill here. Differential lock. We'll get our door open. And then this barn here this is barn 8. I have to feed the whole length of the barn here. So the next load, I'll put you guys on the back of the mixer wagon and you can see, maybe you can see things a little better here. So again, we're just going to be trickling the amount of feed that we're feeding off of this mixer wagon will just about be gone before we get in here with the next load, because we're going so far. We're feeding quite a few cows just to get a little bit of feed into them here. So we're just getting over to cross over the first one. sure I can feed all the way through to the next crossover. You guys can't see it, but they're cleaning the drover's alley right now with the skid steer, because they have just pulled this last group from the right hand side, or our right hand side. That came across, and then they went up through the drover's alley. So we're coming into, we're not quite to the actual addition yet. We're to the last crossover. So this is where the addition started, right here. I haven't only got a couple thousand pounds on, so we got to giddy up here. Again, this is real thin. So we'll get our door climbing here. We got to get it going. There we go. Get fed to the end, and we'll have to back up a little bit to get a little bit that's left on the mixer here cleaned out. We'll give her a little bit of, we'll rev it up a little bit here. Got about 600 pounds to trickle out. About empty, and as you can see, there's just a small little tiny windrow of feed in front of these guys. But our next load that we put on this mixer wagon, we're going to give these guys to our left a full load. The first barn that we went into, I feed them a little bit heavier than I feed these, and they'll go till 7:30 or so. Couple 3 hours, and then we'll top them off after we get done feeding dry cows and heifers. So we got the mixer wagon off, pulling out the door. We'll make sure, I gotta look, make sure we got the overhead door closed on the other end, and we've got that one closed. Usually close the door after we go through it on the go, and sometimes you don't hit the button right, the damn door don't go down. So back to the bunk we go, and we'll get the next loads loaded up here. Well, on these next 2 loads here, all we have left to put on is BMR silage and corn silage. For those of you that are just tuning in maybe for the first time and haven't seen this bucket that we're using on this loader, this is an AMI kickbox bucket. The back of the bucket pushes out. And the beauty with this style bucket, we've got another one kind of like it. It's a slightly different concept. It allows you to get over a taller object without having a real large loader. These mixer wagons are right around 11 feet tall, and we really can't and shouldn't dump the bucket down inside. So once the mixer wagon gets full, the material that's in the mixer wagon is rising as you're filling it. However, a traditional bucket, see, we'll just push this back out. We've got the floor of the bucket is basically level, and the back of the bucket pushes what's in the bucket out. The traditional bucket, just a regular bucket that dumps, you have to have clearance for when that bucket dumps all the way down in order to get the material to dump out, and then you also don't want to be hitting anything that's inside the mixer wagon. The mixer screws on these mixer wagons come up about halfway, so we could potentially hit the top of the screw if we dumped this bucket inside the mixer wagon. Some guys that don't have this style bucket, what they have is a feed ramp. They have a ramp that they drive up with the loader, and it gets the loader higher off the ground. Therefore, they don't have to have a bucket like this, or they don't have to lift up as high. Usually the feed ramps, it has about 4 or 5 feet of the mixer wagon. In other words, it's down maybe 5 or 6 foot from the actual loading height. The trouble with a feed ramp is if you're not loading in the same spot all the time, well, it limits you to have to load in the same spot. The other style bucket that we have is a rollout bucket, and it's got a dump mechanism incorporated into it where it more or less dumps at a cutting edge. The beauty with this bucket here is it cleans out every time. The rollout bucket has boxes made over the top of the dump cylinder, and I'll show you that when we get into daylight here. But this time of year we can get feed that freezes in the back side of the bucket. Once a guy has used and is used to using this bucket, and he has used the other bucket, this bucket can be a little more accurate, dumping off dairy concentrates or protein concentrates. In other words, if you only need a few 100 pounds of a protein mix, you can be a little more accurate with the push-out bucket. Again, you have to be used to using it before you can get accurate enough with it. Anybody that has mixed feed for quite a while and they're used to their machine, they can usually do a pretty good job with keeping within range of whatever commodity that they're dumping onto a mixer wagon. They do make loaders that have high lift arms on them where you can gain 12 to 14 inches of dump height, but that still wouldn't help us. That wouldn't be enough to be able, we need about 3 feet to 4 feet of additional dump height to get over these mixer wagons. To be able to get feed dumped onto them. Now, a tractor trailer you get, or a tall silage truck, our silage trucks are about 12 foot tall, 12 and a half foot tall, and the rollout bucket and the push out bucket work great for loading 10-wheelers or tractor trailers. So we have just a little bit left to put on both of these mixer wagons, and we'll get these fed off. I know there's not a lot that you can see with it being dark here, and the quality of the video probably ain't all that great, but we'll get you some footage once we get into natural lighting here. All right, so we have loads 3 and 4 loaded now. This is load number 3. This has a fresh cow or a fresh heifer ration on it. We're going to trickle a little bit into this group to our left. I have to come back in here a little later on with another load. We're just going to get enough in front of these guys so they have something to munch on while we're feeding dry cows. We're going to do a couple of dry cow rations after this one here. We've got the furthest group up to our left. They're going into the parlor now. We've got that group fed. Now we'll go ahead and back our way out of here. And we have to go into 3 different barns with this load as well. So we're in barn 5 now. We got to go into barn 6 and then over into barn 8. Alright, we're just coming into the back of the parlor, or the barn that's in behind the parlor. We have to feed, we won't come in here again, but we have to feed these guys a pretty good amount. We'll leave about 5,000 pounds left on the mixer wagon, and we'll trickle that into the group over in barn 8. And then we've got to bring another load over, like I was saying, after we get dry cows fed. Now this tractor makes a lot of noises. Got rattles and shakes and whatever else like that. This is a 7710. It's a 97 model, so it's going to be 26 years old this year. And it has 19,000 hours on it. So it's on borrowed time as far as the engine goes. We have a 7810 that burned a few years ago. So I had a battery go dead in that last clip there, and now we are dealing with not having audio for the next few clips here. So what I was explaining in that last clip, this tractor has quite a few hours on it. We do have an engine in the 7810 that had caught on fire here a few years ago. That's good that we can use in this tractor. Now this group to our left is a bred heifer group. They're a non-lactating group, so they're not going to be getting any of this feed. I start feeding after this addition. We're going to be through the addition here in a minute, and there's only like 5,000 pounds of feed on this mixer wagon. There's my brother there. He's doing herd health checks with that one group there. We're going to get across this crossover. As soon as we get across the crossover, we feed this group on our left-hand side all the way down through to the next crossover, which is where the fresh cow group is. So the next, we're going to slide right into the next clip, which is feeding a whole load of feed down through this right-hand side, our right-hand side here. I put you guys on the flasher light arm of the 7720. There's no sound with that clip either, but after a few more clips, I end up getting audio back. I did replace, or I did buy a couple of new SD cards. I don't know what I've got going on with this camera. However, the clip before this one, the battery went dead. The camera clicked off. So I've got to do some experimenting here and see if that is the issue with this camera. If it doesn't like to go through a battery change out, then that could be an issue. I did video with this camera quite a bit after the fact, which you're going to see in the next video, and I did not have any problems with audio in those clips, which I've already edited that part of the those videos already. So we're just about cleaned out here. We're going to go into the next load of feed, which is going to be feeding this one group off, which is the whole length of this barn here. Well, sorry to scare you guys with that ugly mug, but we're just getting you stuck up to or on top of the flasher arm of this 7720. So we'll be over to the barn where we need to dump off this feed here in a second, and we'll join up with you there. So this is load number 4, and we're going to feed this whole load off in this barn from one end to the other. And as you can see, what we fed off in load number 2 to these guys is just about gone. They got that licked right down to the tile that we have in the feed alley. Now, I know I get some questions in these videos. You guys ask, why we put the tile in the feed alley, and a lot of the reason why we do that is because of the minerals and the salts and whatever that are in the protein mix. That eats at the concrete, and believe it or not, the cows licking the concrete with their tongue actually wears the concrete out as well, and it also it makes it rough on their tongue. They don't clean things up as good as they should, and it's just better to put this tile down. We have tile in all of our feed alleys, and it's just worked out really well for us. So this is right around 30,000 to 31,000 pounds of feed. We feed this down through this whole side. The next couple loads I do after these 2 loads, which this is load number 4, the loads are going to be going into the dry cows. I don't have audio on the next clip as well when I'm loading feed with the payloader, so we'll just have to slide into what we have that we do have audio on here. I'm coming up to the next crossover here. I'm getting a little lower on feed. I've only got like 4,000 or 5,000 pounds left at this point, and once I go across this crossover, you'll see that there's a little more feed left in this furthest group. We're going to go ahead and roll on out of here, and we're going to run over and slide into the next clip here of loading dry cow feed onto both of these mixer wagons. Well, we're just getting ready to dump a load of heifer feed into barn 8. I fed dry cows here a couple loads ago. I've got far off dry cows fed on my left side, and the guys are up here cleaning barn here right now. I've got Colton running the vac truck, and Andrew, Davey, and Teddy are moving heifers around. So we've got this group here. We've got to skip a group after the feed alley, and then we've got 2 groups on either side down at the end of this barn to feed this ration to. These heifers here are bred heifers, and they're on their the last, they've been bred the longest. They've been bred longer than this middle group, so we feed these a different ration than the earlier bred heifers. We got the back truck right there doing its thing. So we move the animals over from the feed alley. We push them to the stall sections, move them over, and usually the feed is coming in by then, and then the animals will come back. But as you can see, they've already got the feed alley cleaned, and now they're cleaning the stall sections. So we'll feed up to this point here, we'll skip the middle, and feed the end. They're letting heifers back right now. The stall section was already cleaned on this left side of the barn, and they're letting the heifers back to the stall section. With Davy, Teddy, and Andrew. There's Andrew right there. So we'll get our overhead door up here. And we've got from here down on each side to feed. So we have fed to the end, now we're going to feed off on the other side. This ration here is just haylage and a little bit of baled hay. We have 2 more heifer groups to feed. We have the younger heifers that's in the middle of this barn, and we have another group of bred heifers that are over in the barn addition. They're closer to, the heifers that are in the barn addition are closer to freshening, and they're closer to the maternity pens. So we've got those fed. Make sure we get this door down. It's a little cold here this morning. It's 20 degrees. We have some manure up here in a pile from these calf hutches, and it's looking like Andrew, one of the girls, will start being able to spread that again today. The girls were spreading here on, I don't know if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, back when the ground was nice and firm, but they hadn't been spreading in the last couple days because of the warmer temperatures here. So I'll head back to the bunk and load up a couple more loads. So Jared ended up grabbing that other load. He's got that load for the heifers that are in the middle of the barn. Looks like he's got the payloader here over to the fuel tank. We've just filled up both mixer tractors, and now he's filling up that payloader. Actually, that's not the that's the other payloader. One of the guys is going to start defacing here, and he's filling that loader with fuel. We'll drive by this one and we'll show you the boxes that are inside this rollout bucket. I don't really like this bucket because now you can see he's got some stuff froze. Well, there's not much, but you can kind of see the boxes that are in that bucket. You can only imagine that once in a while we get stuff stuffed in there, stuff stuck in the corners. So I've got one heifer load left to do and one cow load left to do. Well, this is the second to the last load for this morning. We've got one load that we'll end up doing this afternoon. Jared's going to load up the last load right now for the cows, and then either my nephew or my brother will feed one off at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Now I know I get some questions every once in a while, why run 2 mixer wagons when there's only one guy feeding? Well, there's 2 guys right now. Jared got here about 6 o'clock and he helped me finish up. Most of the time there's just one of us feeding and it works. Hey, you can feed a little faster loading both mixer wagons at the same time. Well, sometimes we gain time. Sometimes it's just a convenience factor where you're not running from one to the other and getting in and out of the payloader a bunch of times. Another question I get from time to time is, why don't you get a truck mixer? They hold so much more. Well, they don't hold any more than what these mixer wagons hold. These mixer wagons hold quite a bit. They are of the larger size. Guys really don't run mixer wagons much bigger than what we're running. We did order a new mixer wagon. It should be here by the end of the month. That's one size bigger than what we're currently running. Both of our mixer wagons are 1200 Supremes, and we ended up ordering a 1400 Supreme. It's just going to hold about 100 or so cubic feet more of material. Now, another question I get is, why don't you use truck mixers? Well, there's a couple different reasons why. The pros and cons to the truck mixers. One, the one thing that I have against the truck mixers is the cost of them. Just the chassis alone, and you know, I know some of you will say, geez, you got one of your trucks, just take the box off it and put a mixer on it. Well, you need to have a different drive line in a feed truck than you would have in a silage truck. An automatic transmission is best, and it's best to have a transmission that is, or rear ends rather, that are geared a lot lower. And it's the cost factor as well. A truck chassis alone is over $200,000 for just the truck. We could put a $50,000 mixer or a tractor, $50,000 tractor on one of these mixers, and if the tractor goes down, we could pull it out of the way and put a different tractor on it. If the truck goes down, you're married to it. You have to fix it. The mixer wagon that we bought was right around $150,000 to $160,000. A truck mixer, you'd have about $350,000 to $400,000 wrapped up into a truck mixer. And you're only going to get about 4 or 5 years out of the actual mixer itself before the mixer is wore out and it needs to be refurbished. We have rebuilt these mixer wagons that we have. This red one here, I think I did that in 19, and I did the white one the year before that, or maybe we were 19 on the white one and 2020 on this red one. The Supreme mixer wagons we've had the best luck with, but that's really, I shouldn't say we had the best luck with them. We've had good luck with them. We haven't had anything else other than Supreme. They've done good by us. They're reliable. They do a good job, and we've never had any downtime with them. So I've got just a little bit left to go in this group here to feed. This is the addition part of the new addition part of barn 8. So we have bred heifers on in this one section, and that to our left, and then the section to our right here we have milk cows in it, and everything is full. Now you might be asking, where'd you get the cows from? Well, we had them. We were crowded so lightly. So we haven't bought a cow since 1999 or 2000 rather. When we built the parlor in 2000, we bought 100 and I was like right around 140 springing heifers. In other words, they were all pregnant, and they were fresh by March or so of that following year, and we bought them in the fall. And that's the last time we had ever bought an animal. We have what is called a closed herd. We haven't bought in any animals since then, and the one nice thing about having a closed herd is you can limit your now the cows stay healthier because you're not introducing a different environment to them all the time. Guys that buy cows, they're usually bringing in problems once in a while. However, their immune system on their existing animals might be a little stronger than the immune system that our cows have, just because our cows aren't introduced to anything new. So we have to be careful as far as a sanitary standpoint goes, because we don't want any diseases, or sicknesses rather, not diseases, more or less sicknesses, getting into our cows. So we have to be really careful about who we allow around the farm. Usually the guys that do come around the farm, whether it be a vet or a nutritionist. They usually sanitize their boots and their clothing before and after they leave our farm, or any farm for that matter, because they don't want to be carrying or transferring any sicknesses. Feed trucks, every once in a while, they'll spray their tires off with some kind of an antiseptic something or other, just because they don't want to be bringing any sicknesses in, going from one dooryard to another. So it is a tricky subject. The guys that have poultry farms, they really have to watch what they're doing. Cows are a little stronger of an animal. They can take on different things, but you get chickens or hogs or anything like that, them guys have to be real careful about who they allow on their farm or around their animals. So the mixer wagon is empty. We'll go over and see if we can get a couple of shots of Jared loading that last load of feed if he doesn't have it loaded already. And then we will go on with the rest of our day here. This left side of the barn, they're cleaning that now. And we were cleaning it with the vac truck, but now we're cleaning it with a skid steer on the left, and alley scrapers are getting worked on the right. And they're pushing the manure right into this manure slot that we just crossed over, and that goes into a outdoor storage pit that's on the other side of this barn here. It starts from this one side here. You can kind of see the pit comes outside the barn a little ways. If we want to, we can put a pump in on this side. There's an aluminum cover that my nephew made there. Basically the same cover that we have on the pit that goes underneath the barn, going from down where that tractor is and across. We have never used or had to use the pit or the pump in that end of the pit, but we have it there and available in case we need it. So we'll get this one back to the bunk or back to the commodity shed and get it inside and get it parked, and then we'll get into some shop work. Well, Jared's loading the last of the ingredients on this load here. So this is BMR silage and conventional silage is in that pile right over there. I am almost out of battery, so we'll show you a couple of clips here. A little bit of this getting dumped in. We'll kind of stand on this other side and you'll be able to see maybe a little better how this bucket works. I imagine most of you can kind of figure it out anyways. But he's pushing the back of the bucket out as he's getting it up to the mixer wagon, and then of course he can leave the bottom of the bucket basically level. Come here, pick up a little bit of spillage, and grab another bucket load. That's a seven yard bucket. It holds about 7,000 pounds of corn silage. The other one held about 5,500. We had some slushy snow yesterday that, of course, once we drove through it, it created tire tracks and then it froze. He's spilling a little bit, but he'll clean that up once he gets and goes after his next bucket. Well, think he needs the whole bucket load to be close. So he's just pulling off what he needs there. He's probably going to have about 500 pounds left in the bucket. So he'll dump this off and then he'll grab, he needs, I think if I remember right, he needs about 4,500 pounds of conventional silage. He'll dump that out. No, he only had about 100 and, he only had maybe 50 pounds left in there. So he'll grab a scoop of this conventional silage and then that'll finish out this load. We are going to sell this red mixer wagon. It's a 1200. It's in excellent shape. And we'll run a pressure washer around it here. And this red one will be for sale. Just give you a quick walk around of it. It's in real nice shape. That'll give you an idea what that looks like. If anybody's interested, hit the old email. Oh, this is the last of it. He's got 31,400 pounds. There she is. All right, so I am out of battery, so we're gonna go ahead and dump this load of feed off. We're gonna go get something to eat for breakfast quick and get into some shop work today. So we've got the cows all fed and Geronimo here. He's defacing. This is a Fritsch defacer. We do this ahead of time, the day ahead of time. This is BMR silage here. And the reason why we use a defacer is it keeps a tighter face on the bunk. Obviously, as oxygen works on the face of the bunk, it starts to spoil the feed, and if you can keep a tighter face, the oxygen can't penetrate into the bunk. When you peck at the bunk with a bucket, sometimes you can lift it up some and air can get in, then you just peck at it, and what it'll do is it'll allow oxygen to penetrate in several inches. In order to keep the bunk fresh, it's nice to feed off, I think the rule of thumb is like 3 or 4 inches a day. We're feeding about 6 inches a day in order to keep it fresh. So he's just got a little bit left to do to finish up this one bunk, and then he'll move on to the other bunks. That defacer has a hydraulic drive motor on each side. That's what drives that large rotor. As you can see, he's got all the way across here. This guy here is the guy that he's worked for us for a couple, 3 months now, and he was in the shop, didn't know what the camera was, and didn't know we had a YouTube channel. So now he's on YouTube. Alright, so that is going to do it for this video. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next one.